Welcome to the Room of Lives. I'm your host, Neil. This is a sequence of 3 episodes in which I air some hot takes on reality. Basically, some opinions and feelings I have about the structure of the reality we live in, which sometimes are founded on some reasoning, sometimes it's more of a gut feeling. For logistic reasons, the first of the 3 conversations I had will actually be published as the 3rd episode called Oil and Water. This episode was actually the 2nd such conversation I had. I was spending a day in a cabin on Lake Travis with my friend Alicia from episodes 30.1 through 30.4, and we recorded this conversation while sitting on the porch by the lake. At night, a sort of storm came in, and Alicia had to get up and close the windows. So this is hot take number 1. My belief that the world may only appear to be limited by physical laws. But if it is such stuff as what dreams are made of, it is really unlimited, indestructible, and endless. We live in a world that has a lot of limits, like physical limits. For example, the laws of nature. That's like a physical limit. You cannot make matter out of nothing. You cannot make energy out of nothing. You have to only convert one to the other. So there are all of these different kinds of symmetries and balances and hard rules which the world cannot violate. Or like, for example, our existence seems so fragile. Like if you look out beyond planet Earth, it seems like most of the universe is just not fit for something so delicate as the biological world. And there's just this Goldilocks zone on planet Earth. And so if you look at all the physical reality of what's happening, this existence where we are alive feels very fragile. And even in the middle of that, across huge time scales, there is only a little blip of time in which life is existing on planet Earth. And even there's a constant threat of extinction. Like right now, we are physically driving the world to a place where we might stop existing. Different species have stopped existing in the past. And the overall entropy of the universe is increasing because of the second law of thermodynamics. So at the end, it's just going to be like one hot soup. So there are all of these physical realities which make our existence seem very fragile, limited by all this physical, And there's, as a scientist, you could be worrying about it. Like, I used to, actually. I was like, I like life. But here's all these shitty things like the second law of thermodynamics and all of this stuff that is just going to make it end someday. And I wrote heartfelt poetry about it. About how the world is going to come to an end, And there's no existence beyond that. So it feels very fragile. But here's a theory / wacky idea. The world may not actually be limited by those physical constraints, but it may appear to be limited. So, for example, at night when you're dreaming, let's say can you describe a dream scenario to me? Just describe made-up dream that you're in.
Like you're running late for class. This is one of my mom's recurring stress dreams. You're running late for class and you can't remember where you're supposed to go and you got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Okay, so you're in this dream and you're running late for class. And you have to go to the bathroom. It's an anxious dream. You don't know where to go, and time is running out. Time is running out, and time is a real physical constraint. Mm-hmm. It cannot be warped or stretched or whatever. That's what you believe in the dream. That's why it's an anxious dream. You believe that the time is a real thing. You believe that your bladders are real, and they have to go. You have to go because your muscles have a certain capacity of holding in urine, and you don't know where to go. It's like, you have to obtain knowledge. There are all of these things, but they're just not true. Like, the time is not like you can
are you saying these things are only not true because it's within the dream?
Yeah. Like, for example, you could say, oh yeah, my bladder muscles just, but you're dreaming your bladder muscles. So there's no inherent physical reason. Mm-hmm. It might be that the dream is turning out in such a way that you believe that. However, there is nothing underlying that dream which poses real physical constraints on why why you have to urinate. It just so happens because you're in a dream where you have to urinate. It doesn't have anything to do with the reality of your physical body or whatever. You could as well be having a different dream, in which bladders never have to urinate, in which time is infinitely expandable and, whatever.
But does that apply to physical reality when you're not dreaming?
Yeah, so my thing is, this could be a dream. So in a dream, like suppose that in a dream you're seeing different things like houses, cars, trucks, things moving around, and you believe in the physical reality of it. So you might believe in the dream or see the consequences of matter never coming out of anywhere or something like that, and you're like, oh, according to my dream knowledge, these seem to be the rules of this world or whatever. But they're not really solid rules. Your dream is not made up of physical stuff. It is made of dream stuff appearing like physical stuff. And that dream stuff can do anything.
Inherently is that this is a dream. I mean, that whole theory relies on the fact that this would be
I'm saying that's a theory. I'm saying
but
I'm not saying this is a dream.
Physical constraint things only apply if fundamentally our reality is a dream.
What do you mean?
Because essentially you're talking about these physical constraints, and these physical constraints in a dream state don't necessarily exist. We're just spinning them up.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, when you say you have a theory about reality, you're inherently trying to apply something to reality. So if you're saying that these physical constraints may be made up, like the whole crux of your theory is that we're in a dream.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to that. So I was just saying that if you were in a dream, your beliefs in these physical constraints would not be substantiated by truth. It's just whatever you believe. And you have no choice about believing because the belief is part of the dream. I'm saying, okay, yes, that imagine if our reality were dream stuff. And there's dreams within dreams. So when we go to bed at night, we dream. But this is also a dream. Then all of these physical laws that I talked about, the second law of thermodynamics, the entropy, the whatever, all of these things, the fragile existence of the earth because of the physics of whatever, it's all like dream stuff. It's like made up. It's made up in such a way that there is consistency and regularity to it. There's even a science that can be done to bring together all the patterns, and it just never falls off its rules, but it's arbitrary. So we believe in it totally. We're like, oh shit, yeah. I used to think, oh, my existence is so fragile. Like at the end of my life, I will die, like my body will decay and everything will end and there can be no consciousness beyond that or whatever. But it's all, if it could be like a dream script, then none of these things need to be real. It's of course true, we have not experienced anything more real than this, but yeah. So that's the dream idea. It also connects to the simulation idea, which is if this were a simulation, that's running on some computers, then also you can no longer really believe in the physical laws. The physical laws are a result of the algorithm of the world that happens to be running in that computer. You can program different kinds of laws into a game world and it will do different things. In fact, people do that all the time. That's why people play games, because you can create worlds that have different laws than ours. So imagine this to be a highly high resolution rendered graphic interactive world. The laws are just code running on a computer, and you could change the code and it could be a different world. And in this world, in order to make this particular version of the game appealing, there are these things, the looming monsters, death, and the second law of thermodynamics and all of this stuff, but they don't need to be substantiated by anything underneath. And in fact, what was the thing that I was going to say? Yeah, I mean, the computers that are running this simulation, if this were a simulation, and you imagine that there are still computers that have to run it or whatever, because our ideas of what the physical world needs is just created by our experience in this life. So we will by default start thinking of, oh, really, this is what is needed. Oh, really, you need energy. So you could ask questions like, okay, well, what energy are those computers running on that are creating this simulation? That must have its own rules, and you can't make that energy out of thin air. So even if this is a simulation, the simulator machines are restricted by physical laws. So at some point it all has to end and disintegrate, and so does our simulation. But the return to that is like, the response to that is that these physical laws that you believe are part of your life don't need to apply to those simulating computers, because they live in a different world. This is a world that is created just for the simulation. So don't start believing that the natural laws that apply in this world are also the ones that constrain the quote-unquote real world out there. They could have the same things, but that's weird that you live in a world and you have these computers and you decide to simulate exactly that world. So maybe it's something else, and maybe they have different physical constraints. Maybe entropy is not a real thing. It's just something coded into the game where to just make it interesting. And so basically these are my two ways of drawing analogies to saying that the physical constraints of this world, the natural laws, may not be as real as we think. Because in science, I think the idea is that is really truly the real world. The real world has those laws, and it manifests itself, and there are like a complex chain of events that makes that information enter our heads, and we just observe the world. And so the things that happen in the real world are a reflection of real, true, natural laws that are underlying this world, that we're like receiving in the form of signals or whatever. But I don't necessarily believe that's true. So in fact, my evolving belief, and I don't have a lot of evidence for this, but now I have a belief that is becoming increasingly stronger over the years, that this existence or life or consciousness or reality is actually endless and indestructible. And it is insubstantial. There is nothing to destroy. Like it's kind of made of like dream stuff. And we will never know anything else. And it's just made of dream stuff where some kind of a dream material just swirls around and makes all the patterns of the tree, of this thing, of you, of my experience, and it's just the same thing, just swirling around and making patterns, like the water makes like different patterns, but it's the same stuff making all these patterns, and you cannot destroy it. Like in the ways that physical reality can be destroyed, because that's just like a dream theater. So it kind of feels like it's going to be endless and indestructible, but it can be such that it induces in you beliefs about what it is. And you could believe that it's totally solid and real and whatever, and I'm gonna die, and then it's, or whatever, So basically kind of like a difficult thing to express, but I would say that as time goes on, my belief becomes more and more that this is some kind of a magic dream with some regularities, but at the end, magic dream, meaning that I actually do not control this, and it's just happening, and there is no explanation, and that it is indestructible. It doesn't mean indestructible as in you're going to keep having Ali's human experience forever. That part is destructible, I think, and it happens every night. Like,
dream.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Like every night I go to bed, my Neil experience goes away, and then I don't know what happens. Sometimes dreams happen, and then Neil experience comes back. Wake up in the morning. So the Neil experience can be definitely interrupted, and that could happen at the end of my life. there are different theories about this. Different cultures believe in different stuff. I could either be extinguished and immediately be reborn into some other like baby coming into the planet with no previous memory. So there's no way to link the two or whatever, you know. I could be reborn as a baby that was born slightly before me, you know. Who knows how or whatever. But then there's no point saying I did it, because it's just like a new instantiation of a consciousness that has nothing to do with the previous consciousness. So there's no way for this later consciousness to relate and say, oh, that was me, or whatever. So that could be a certain like discontinuity in what is happening, like the dream just switches to another dream. Yeah, or it could be a variety of different things. But I think it cannot really end.
Yeah,
I don't know how I believe that,
either.
but I'm like, there is no beginning and end.
I think I believe that too, and I think like the dream stuff to me, because when you think about it, the real stuff, it's like, it's just collections of these different molecules and matter, and that's really the only like physical rules that like matter, you know, is like at the smallest level everything that builds it up. But how infinitely small does it actually get too? So it's like how deep rooted are those like connections and reactions and rules. But yeah, it's like everything, I mean, the only interpretation we can have of reality is the one that we see through our own eyes. So if there was like some simulation, it wouldn't matter, because at the end of the day, when we're trying to understand the rules, we're trying to understand the rules that the coder made that dictate our reality. But we can't, since we're within this one, we can't physically experience what it would be like to be exposed to the real rules. So it doesn't really
take out the
matter.
VR goggles.
Yeah, it's like they, you know, those real rules don't apply to us, so why, you know, we could never begin to even describe or conceive of what they might be.
Hey, you know, has it ever been that you're in a dream and you know it's a dream or something and you don't want to continue it, so you're trying to wake yourself up and you manage to wake yourself up, like in real life?
Yeah, I'm pretty
that has
sure.
happened, right?
Yeah.
So think about something like that. It's in your dream reality, you're just the dream character, but you have some vague memory that this is not your true reality. At some point you realize, I am dreaming, and then you have some recollection of who you truly are and what the circumstances of your life is. You're like, okay, I'm Ali and I'm sleeping, I'm lying in bed and I'm having this dream and I don't want to have this dream, and there is something called waking up. And I remember, and I've got to try, and I kind of actually remember how to try to wake up. So at that point you're like kind of disbelieving your reality, and you're like, I think I remember how to wake up. And you like put all your, for me it's like that, it's like I had to fucking pull all my energy together, and I like really strain, and it's like I am gonna wake up, and you just like get all your energy together, but it's like the dream is trying to like just release it and be like, oh no, fall back into the dream.
Yeah.
Fall back into the dream. And you're like, no, I gotta wake up. And it's unpleasant. It's like harsh lights shining on your face, like fucking waking up in the morning and like taking a cold shower. It's painful. You just kind of want to let go. And you're like, no, wake up. And then at some point, like I wake up in my bed, I'm like, whew, okay.
Yeah.
So do you like, think that might be possible? To wake up from this?
It might be, but I don't think so. Or like very few people like do it, because like you just asked me if I could like if I've ever woken myself up from a dream, and it's like, yeah, a lot of people have. A lot of people like have the ability to do that. But you know, if it is possible to wake up from this, I guess what people would say is like the only way out is dying.
Oh yeah. But not sure. We don't know
Not
for sure.
Not sure, yeah.
Not sure about that.
Yeah, and it's a pretty severe way to test that.
But then there are all these like spiritual paths that talk about waking up or enlightenment, which doesn't mean you have to die.
No.
But somehow you kind of like wake up. You know,
yeah, it just feels like though with that, I mean, you're still maybe you understand better, like, your relation to everything, but is that, I don't think that's the waking up that you're talking about, because it's the, you're
They're still
in
in
the
this
dream.
reality, but I'm not sure, I'm not sure. I feel like waking up, quote unquote, from the simulation may not look like what we imagine it to look like. Somehow your like body could still be in the simulation, but you know how when you're dreaming, you're playing this dream character, but you're actually bigger than that. You're just imagining up this specific dream character at the time. And I feel like some of these spiritual paths are about noticing the character you're playing every moment, and basically kind of trying to get out of
Playing the character.
the webs of like having to play that character, or like seeing oneself as larger and being like, okay, that's just like a character.
Well, and I think maybe it goes back to, there is some sacredness in like thinking about whether you believe in a soul or not. Like, there is sacredness to that, of like having the relationship to who you are, and like the deep appreciation for that, because the only reason like we get lost in it is because we fundamentally somewhat depend on others around us to keep our lives going. Like, we are a very like interdependent species. Like, even though like I don't have any quote unquote dependence, it's like there's so many like points within, like, how do I get my food, how do I like, have a place to live, how do I have electricity, like, it's so fundamentally depends on all these people around me. Like, it'd be very hard, you'd have to go somewhere remote, somewhere where you're like self-sustaining your own food and all this stuff, but it's like, where'd you get those seeds, where'd you get the materials? It's like you are so fundamentally reliant on other people that it's like it is a constant battle to like. And so maybe that is what it is like, beyond all of that, or aside from all of that, you still have like the true sense of like who you are and what you're doing, and like not necessarily why you're here, but like your place in all of it. And it's hard to think about too, because when you think about it like that, it's like, is that the ultimate like goal? But at the end of the day, like, maybe it is achieving that, but you're still doing something within the whole construct of society around you. Like, you're still functioning within it, and maybe contributing in some way, and maybe just like focusing on what you're doing. But like, yeah, it's hard to grapple with, because I want to understand that part of it, and I want to be at peace with like who I am, but I also think that like the full big picture of like humanity and helping with that is still somewhat like, I could take personal responsibility in that. If I have like, I guess those things are not mutually exclusive, that you like find this like true individualism and like enlightenment, but you can't also pursue something for the greater good.
I feel like my existence could be a little bit more dissociated than yours.
I feel very like I don't reject having to have those like personal, like I'm very close with like family, and I think that's where a lot of maybe that like feeling started, but I also it's like there's almost like two views of the system. It's like the full-on natural system, and then the human part of like interacting with the natural system. And neither of those systems are like intending to cease. And so it's like, it's like, I don't know, I guess maybe like why I just feel like there is some sort of like purpose for me, because I can't explain why I have like the combination of like skills and intuitions, or like we were talking about, like that drive, that inner drive to just kind of like follow what you think and Like sometimes you don't even know why you're doing it, but this is like what I'm driven to do. And then I reflect on, whoa, like I had no idea what this was going to lead to, but it felt right to me to do it. And now look at like what I've been able to achieve in doing it. And then I'm like, well, achieving this fundamentally gave me the skills to achieve this. And it's like these compounding effects that I can like envision as this like big snowball into something big. And I've like literally like asked before to who knows, but I'm like, you know, like what is your plan for me, or like what do you plan for me to do in this life? Because it just feels like it's not just fully me at the driver's seat. Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, in a dream, like it's not like you're like, okay, I'm not concerned or involved. Like in the dream, you do become involved in whatever, because that's a big highlight of the anxious dream that you said your mom has, or that you're not ambivalent about what's going on in the dream. You're not like, oh, I don't really care, it's just a dream, because you don't have any option. Part of that dream is being anxious and believing in that dream, you know. So I truly understand why, even if this was dream stuff, I still feel like it's real and it matters, and I don't have any qualms against it. In fact, I like being passionate about stuff.
Well, and I guess it's sort of like, I was talking to Alex about this, like it was like the Theranos or whatever company. Did you hear about that? Anyway,
oh yeah,
that whole
some
like
fake
scheme,
company.
Yeah,
some biotech
fake technology
thing.
that didn't actually exist, and all these people like invested in it, and there was this thing that like it's riskier not to invest if it ends up being the real deal than to invest in something fake and like lose out on that X percentage. So I guess my mindset may be, and I don't, haven't thought about it in this way, but it could be riskier not, like if this does all matter and what I do does matter, it's riskier to treat it like a dream because I don't know which is right. Yeah. So it's like, it's riskier to not care or like just throw caution to the wind because I don't believe that what I'm doing like matters, capital M matters, like, because maybe it really, really does.
Mm-hmm. I think I try to like have a balance about that. Like whenever I feel like something is making me too anxious to believe very deeply that it matters, then I try to make it unmatter. Like then I try to make it like, okay, remind myself that it doesn't matter so much.
Well, and if you were feeling anxious about it...
And there are some things about which I will not remind myself. Like, suppose I'm really enjoying doing science, and there is a part of my mind that can come in and make the same arguments and say, it doesn't matter. It's just like it's all made up. But I don't do that because I'm enjoying it. Yeah. So I play it off based on the scenario.
Well, it matters in the sense that it like brings you that personal fulfillment and it keeps you going. I mean, there's some aspect of like, I need to figure out what is worth doing all this for. Like, what is keeping me going at the end of the day? Because you could just like lay in bed and be like, I don't want it anymore. Like, I'm done with trying with all this stuff. Like, you can do that, but something has to keep you. It has to be that balance of like, I enjoy this life and want to continue doing it, and I'm also progressing maybe toward things that I don't, like I'm doing the things that I don't enjoy in order to like achieve something that matters. I don't know.
Yeah.
It be cray.
Okay, this was a good conversation. Thanks for hanging out with Alicia and me today in the Room of Lives. In the next episode, I expose hot take number 2. That there is only a single possibility to how life unfolds, and that alternatives or multiple possibilities, and in fact mathematical probabilities, are just our fictitious imaginations.